Hey everybody, welcome back to the Timothy Journal podcast. So excited for today's episode. It's pretty unique actually. We got two special things. Number one, we're back in the office, the home office, and so we're excited to be recording something valuable to you today. And then secondly, we are bringing on a guest virtually all the way from Waco, Texas, and his name is Seth Weller. Seth, how are you doing today?
Doing great. Doing great. Glad you can have me out.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for being here. For all of you guys don't know, Seth, he is a football player right now playing for the Baylor Bears in Waco. And if I'm correct, you are a redshirt junior playing for them right now,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. So this is my second year at Baylor. I transferred in from a school in Southern California and then redshirted my first year, and then this is my first year actually playing.
Congratulations. Congratulations. How have the
Yeah.
first few games been going?
It's been good. We're 2-1, so that's always a good way to start. And yeah, I mean, it's kind of looking up to be a good season for us, so I'm excited to see what happens.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, for those of you guys who don't know, Seth and I go back a long time. He's been one of my best friends for um, quite a bit. I know that as far as my memory can say, we were friends back in kindergarten.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. So we're getting pretty close to 15 to 20 years. I mean, we're in that range.
I know. I'm very grateful, super grateful. But
Yeah.
what's really cool is that throughout our friendship and throughout life, we've both stayed, for the most part. I think you beat me, but consistent in sports and being active and competing. Both playing sports in high school, and now you're playing sports at a D1 college. Congratulations! But we're
Thank
talking
you.
today about where's God? Where's God in sports? What is He doing? Does God even belong in sports? And where are we seeing Him at work? And so, my question for just you said this: number one, like, how has your faith been challenged or grown as you've been in the sports world? What's that been like being a Christian where you go?
Yeah, I mean, I've definitely been blessed with both colleges I've been at. There's been a very strong faith factor, which isn't the case for a majority of schools, but for Redlands, where I was before this, and then Baylor, there's definitely an emphasis on faith, which is, really nice. And it is really helpful to kind of grow your faith with people who are experiencing like similar challenges that I face every day. As an athlete, our lives are a little bit different. It doesn't make us different people, but it does make us have different time commitments. So having a group of people who we can like share those struggles with and share those experiences with is like really helpful to kind of walk through life together because we can identify with each other in ways that most people can't. So it's been really cool to be at Baylor and kind of have that. Like I said, most people don't. So that's been really ideal for me. And just like being able to have those people in my life who are like confident to have those types of conversations. I mean, we have a Bible study, we meet every week, and I mean, we talk about life every time, and it's like real conversations that I don't think I get anywhere else. So, I mean, from that aspect, sports is building a really good community for athletes to like really understand their faith and understand Christ in a whole new light. So that's probably been the biggest piece for me.
That is so special, really special. Being able to have that community, um, that's something special for sure. Also, take a pause here. I do want to remind everybody at the end of this episode, we have a special merch drop that we're sending out, getting out some special Christian merch for you wherever you get to go. So don't forget that at the very end, we'll be sharing that. But Seth, dropping back into our conversation, you were saying that, um, being an athlete has different time commitments. It has different kind of lifestyle, and you're with different people or your team only. Tell me about that. You talked about the struggles that you're able to find camaraderie in together with your teammates. What's that been like?
Yeah, I mean, as an athlete, there's different expectations put on you opposed to, anybody else who attends Baylor just because we represent Baylor in a different way. We're, associated with the school and with an athletic program, so we're kind of put under a microscope. So it's it has its benefits, but it also has its, hindrances. Like we are expected higher of than a majority of people. And we also carry the weight, especially as a football player, of eating stereotypes. I mean, a lot of people, think football players are jocks and are these, kind of crazy, crazy people. But I mean, it really is just a stereotype. The majority of us are pretty down to earth, cool guys. But it's interesting kind of experiencing it at a D3 level, like Redlands, and then experiencing it here because it is, drastically different. But I think it's like from a faith perspective, it's very, it's unique in a way that there's different temptations at this level of ball, and the, attacks from the enemy can come at you a lot harder when there's more resources available. And so that's something that it's very important to have like a group of people to connect with in order to kind of stay away from that stuff and focus on God in an environment that's constantly pushing the world at you. I mean, football, there's glory and there's, wins, and with that comes a lot of temptation. So it's really important for us to kind of have our foundation set a little bit firmer because all that stuff comes easier.
Yeah, yeah. Would you mind sharing some of those, or kind of what's some things that you've battled and worked through to?
I mean, it's your typical, I mean, pop star kind of rock star kind of setting. There's, drugs, alcohol, sex. I mean, it's all accessible to you. So making sure you're firm in your faith so that when that stuff comes your way, I mean, it's not enticing or tempting like it is for a lot of people. And that's, a big problem for freshmen because they first come to campus and they experience that stuff for the first time and they don't know how to combat it. So for me, I'm very thankful that my journey started at Redlands because, well, a little bit smaller school, it's there's less accessible, so it's easier to say no to stuff. And so with that, it kind of gave me a format to build my faith and my foundation before I got to Baylor, which I think was huge for me.
Yeah, your faith foundation and faith.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So if you weren't as pivotal and as strong in your foundation with the Lord, would you feel like your football career would be so much different, or at least your experience as an athlete would be very different?
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I mean, faith, and I think my relationship with Christ is a reason I'm finding success at this level, That's kind of been the biggest thing for me is focusing on Christ and having my foundation be in him, especially with the sports world. It's constant comparison. You're comparing yourself to the guys on the depth chart. You're comparing yourself to, now NIL, like who's making more money. And so by like foundationing myself in Christ, it allows me to kind of bypass all that stuff. So now I focus on like, am I pleasing the Lord opposed to, am I starting or am I making enough money or, all that kind of stuff. So it's really easy to get caught up in that. And it's kind of like promoted at this level because, you want to start and you want to make the most money and you want to be the best athlete and you want to be that guy on the team. But by focusing on Christ, I mean, it makes it a lot easier to navigate all that. And for me, it's been really pivotal because, I'm at the bottom of the depth chart and I don't make a lot of money, but, you know, through my relationship with Christ, I'm not trying to please man out there. I'm trying to please God. And by doing that, I've found, success in the field through like special teams where I wouldn't play receiver. So that's been kind of huge for me and just like trusting God through that journey and walking with him.
That's amazing. That's amazing. So true. So true. I mean, the world of sports is so big. I mean, I remember just recently in September, we had football weekend, right? Football got kicked up and started again. And even some of my best friends, they're like, "Oh yeah, man, the Cardinals game, they're playing. I'm gone." For all the Timothy Journal family, Matt, who's usually my co-host on here, he is a huge Cardinals fan, and he told me that a long time ago. He was like, "Oh yeah, Cardinals are playing. Don't expect to be in touch." Like I'm focused on that. And I'm like, that's awesome. It's really cool. I love that he's a Cardinals fan. I probably watch one football game in the year, uh, the Super Bowl. And if that, I'm watching half of it and just connecting with family. But regardless, the impact of sports is huge. And especially for you, like people don't understand really what athletes go through on that pressure side, that comparison, that performance, and even just that accessibility to the world of sin, of debauchery, of idolatry, just different things, whatever it may look like. And I love how you said faith is your foundation. That's really critical. I mean, I've never been in the D1 football world. I've never been in the college sports arena. What has been the faith foundation? Like, what does that practically look like? Is that church, your community, that Bible study you were talking about?
Yeah, I mean, it has to start with like that foundational level of it's your faith. So I mean, all that other stuff is good. Going to church is good. Getting connected to different groups, whether that's through your church or for me, like through my team and like having that Bible study is good. But on the foundational level, it needs to be your faith first. So that's kind of like your own time. For me, Bible devotionals are a pretty daily thing. It's routine and like spending time in my word and taking notes and kind of like really trying to digest what I think God is speaking to me. I think that's like the most important level. But beyond that, I mean, all that other stuff is really good for kind of enhancing your faith because it's good to have people you talk to who, share similar experiences with you and you can kind of walk through life together and like understand what each other are going through. But as far as like that base faith, like making sure it's your own, has kind of been the biggest thing for me. And like
Yep.
from that point, when I made my faith my own, that's where I saw the most growth, not only in sports, but just in my life in general, like my attitude and perspective for how I view sports, but then how I view classes, how I view college, how I view my interactions with people. It transcends sports. Sports is really just a platform I've been given through ability. It's not anything more than that.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Um, what would you say is like the difference between, making your faith your own? Because I get it. I mean, me and you grew up. We together both went to a Christian middle school, Christian elementary school, and then we both went public school. And I know for me, during public school was really when I made my faith my own. I mean, I
Mm-hmm.
remember in second grade, our teacher was telling us about Jesus, and I came home and I was like, Mom and Dad, I want to believe in Jesus, and said the prayer, which is all sweet and lovely. But then when middle school and high school came along, it became real. It was like what I could label myself as or identify as really came to a testing point. And just like what you're
Yeah.
saying, you treat things differently, whether or not it's
Yeah.
your school, your classes, your relationships, friendships, how you carry yourself. It matters, and you can see it in someone who has a genuine faith and who doesn't. What would you say is like this was the pivoting factor? What was the decision factor? Actually, that's the best question. What's the decision factor to say I knew my faith wasn't my own, and I needed to make it my own? Why did you make it your own?
Yeah. I mean, that's a great question. I think it's one thing to believe, in Jesus and believe the Bible is true. And it's a totally separate thing to follow. It's really easy to, go to church and sing songs and hear all that and think, yeah, okay, this is real. But it's a lot more difficult to actually pick up your cross and follow Christ.
Mm,
And so that's kind of the biggest thing is for me, like understanding that I kind of was in a place where I was just, believing, but I wasn't following. And that's kind of the biggest step for Christians, new Christians, is when they, first hear and they're excited and they believe, but it's not just enough to believe. You got to put it into practice. There needs to be, some actions behind that faith. Because I mean, we'll know believers by their fruits.
yeah,
So it's really important to kind of take those steps.
super important. I mean, James talks about that. Faith without works is dead. And in James is both the duplicity argument of both if the Bible says, faith without works is dead, that's true. But we also don't do works out of faith. Like we don't just perform and go to work, work church and raise our hands, to say that we're
Yeah.
saved. We raise our hands because we're saved, right? So works follows your faith, and your faith should also be followed by works.
Yeah, yeah. And I think a big thing for me was like the posture of my heart through like submitting myself to Christ, when I kind of let go of the reins of my life and decided that like I'm going to be a follower opposed to, me planning how my life is going to go, kind of just allowing God to lead me through this journey, which, has just been spectacular ever since.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah.
How do you see, God moving in your life right now? What's he doing in your world, but also in the world around you?
Yeah. I mean, my journey with God has been, insane up until this point. From the move to Redlands to Baylor, I just kind of felt God put it on my heart to leave. So I packed up everything I had in my little, Infinity I-35, drove all the way down to Texas, was finding a place to live on the way. Coming to Baylor, not sure if I was going to play football again, walking on, making the team. Like, it just kind of revealed to me that like God has so much more planned for me than I could ever imagine. And so like even now when I'm in a position where, I'm not getting maybe the reps I want on offense, I can just have that trust that God is doing something in the background and whatever his plan for me is good enough for me. And I think that's been like the most pivotal thing for me in general is just kind of giving up on my own hopes and aspirations and like allowing God to put me where he needs me. I think that's kind of like the biggest thing for me as a believer is making sure I'm, being a good and faithful servant.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I know when for me in my sports world, I ran cross country and track high school and was so filled with pride. I mean, I just was thinking I was super great and all this stuff and had these plans. I mean, I remember me and you would talk about it. I'd be like, yeah, I'm gonna go to this college. I'm gonna make the Olympics, and then I'm gonna go to the military. And like that was my whole game plan. And the Lord really 180 my life because my left foot broke twice and really shifted that off the rails. And for me, I thought sports was so much. I had such an idolization of it. And I didn't realize what God was doing by removing that from me, that he really took the time to say, hey, are you going to make me Lord? Or am I going to play second best to your dreams?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm so grateful for that time because God really got a hold of my heart. And I think, and it sounds a lot like the Lord got a hold of your life as well to just show like his faithfulness, his goodness, and to
Yeah.
know what we thought was best for us isn't always the best thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's as soon as I let go of my life, that's where I really started to see the growth and really saw me taking steps towards where I wanted to be. And so I think that's kind of been the most pivotal thing in my life is really just like submitting myself and kind of that humbling experience of putting God first and making sure like football's not an idol in my life.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, real quick, I want to ask two questions and then we'll move in. And I really want to ask you a specific question regarding how you see the world of sports and how others can grow from it. But before we do, you've talked a lot about foundation. You've talked a lot about, that daily practice, making the Lord of your life, and giving him your heart. Seth, what has really changed the way that you view the world, and what are things and practices that you're keeping in place to follow and walk with the Lord?
Mm. Say that one more time.
Yeah, I got you.
That's a great
Um,
question.
yeah, what are things that you're doing right now that is helping you to follow Jesus and to continue to walk with him, giving him your heart?
Yeah. I think the biggest thing I'm doing right now is probably that daily devotional, but then also kind of making the posture of my heart a place where it's God first. and kind of putting myself into a servant position to where God is really truly leading me. And I think that's kind of been the biggest pivot in my life, is making sure my heart is in a posture of service, opposed to kind of that ego filled place that it's easy to go to, when you're an athlete. For me, it's easy to think, oh, I've made it, I'm playing the highest level of sport available to me at this time.
Yeah.
But kind of putting yourself in that mindset of humble service allows me to truly focus on God through it all and make sure I'm giving him all the glory opposed to, man.
Yeah. Yep. Tell me about your daily devotional. What do you do? That Bible app? Is that a plan, like paper copy? Do you have like a journal that you're doing?
No, yeah. So it's a journal. I have a journal, a daily journal I go through. But as far as a plan, I really let the Lord speak to me. It's usually through like books of the Bible. So I'll go through like the Gospels. I've already been through Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. One of my favorites was Job. And for me, it's really just a chapter a day in the morning to kind of just foundation myself, and then taking notes on how I think God is speaking to me through those passages. I'll write down like a summary of what I think the passage is saying, and then how that is applicable to my life. And then just kind of my prayers that come up from that. And that's been really like foundational for me, and like keeping me in the word, but then also giving me something that I can go back to. Like, what was I praying about when I read this passage a year ago?
Right.
And how have I seen God work through that?
Wow. Wow. Have you seen some prayers transfer over that have really surprised you?
I mean, yeah, of course. I'm living in a prayer right now. I mean, I prayed to be at this level playing football, 4 years ago, and here I am. So, I mean, my whole journey has been an answered prayer.
It's amazing. Amazing.
Yeah.
Hey, I just want to ask one thing. I think about every single Christian athlete, all the way from middle schooler, high schooler to college athlete, or even pro. And maybe they're not at a Baylor University that's faith-based, or at a Redlands, and they don't have a lot of Christians around them, or they just don't know that they have a lot of Christians around them. What would you say to them? What's that word of encouragement to the athlete that's going out there, that's a Christian, that loves God with all their heart, but is in this world that's not very God-filled?
Yeah. I mean, no matter what level you're at, high school to, D3 to D1, whatever sort of position you find yourself in, you have a platform at your school. And so that's kind of been the biggest thing I've realized is, like, I've been gifted a platform through my gifts that God has given me through, athleticism and sports, and making sure to utilize that platform, whether that's, making posts on Instagram or TikTok or whatever it is, which, I mean, isn't everybody's thing, but even to like having those conversations in your classroom or your day to day with friends. I mean, you still have that platform even in those spaces. So utilizing it that way is just like important to do when you've been given that gift.
Yeah, that's huge. I love that. I think, a big encouragement, if I could tell any Christian athlete, it would be that there's more good around you than what you see. Because I think when you think that the entire school that you're at, the whole team that's there, that no one's a Christian, you feel so alone. And I'm reminded of just even the scripture in Elijah, in Kings, and it talks about, Elijah felt like he was all alone. He says, God, I've been so zealous for you. I've been so on fire for you. And I feel I'm the last one. I'm the last one that fears your name. And he says, no, I still have a remnant. And he says, no, those people still fear my name. To what an encouragement to know that there's others around you that fear the Lord, that love him, that want to be a follower of Jesus Christ. And who knows, my encouragement to any athlete is there may be people on the team that you're playing with right now. There may be people, even if you're not an athlete, in your workplace right now, in your classes right now, that love God as much as you do. or maybe even more, or maybe less, and you can come alongside them and encourage them. And the whole message is to know, like, your foundation in Jesus Christ is the most important thing across everything. Doesn't matter how many home runs you score, how many touchdowns, if you're the fastest, most athletic, strongest, whatever it may be, your relationship in Jesus Christ is the number one thing. And then the second thing is that we ought to reflect the life of Jesus and encourage other people to walk with him and get to know him as well. And I think, Seth, you've been such a dear friend to me and such an amazing friend, and you've inspired me in so many ways about just your dedication, I really would say, faithfulness in God's dreams. I mean, you've had a dream to play for Baylor since I can remember in 6th grade. Your brother went to Baylor and he had some Baylor gear and got you like this keychain. And we were in middle school and you didn't drive a car, but you love this keychain. You're like, yeah, Baylor. I was like, what is this? And the colors are this, like, moss green and like sunshine yellow. And I'm just like, all right, he's a Baylor's fan, and I'm repping my brother and sister went to Liberty. But I just think it's amazing. I mean, your faith has inspired me so much, and it seems like God has done such a great work in you, and you're sharing it to everybody else. And so that's just my encouragement. All right, Seth, that is just amazing, and just all that you're doing. Hey, how can the people follow you, get in touch, keep up to date with your story and all that you're doing?
Yeah, I mean, you can follow me on Instagram, Seth Weller 20, all lowercase. If you're interested in, seeing a little window into my life, I'll be honest, I don't post an incredible amount, but just enough to, if you want to see kind of how I'm doing and where God has taken me, you're more than welcome to join.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And we'll grab that. That'll be in the bio right below in the description is his Instagram. Seth, thank you so much for coming on here today. Hey, real quick, I did promise everybody that we would have a special merch drop. And so here it is. One of my dear friends is the creator of the merch Love of God. And their mission is to be lights in the darkness by having Christian merch that would spark conversations, that would be an avenue where you can be an ongoing light through what you wear to those around you. And so with that, they have given us a special opportunity for 2 lucky listeners to be able to get a free t-shirt sent to you. So the first 2 people to DM Timothy's Journal on Instagram gets to have that free access code. So make sure you hop onto Instagram, DM us, say, I want to be a light. I want to be a light. And with that, you'll be entered, and the first 2 people to do that will be able to get those 2 t-shirts. Man, it's super special.
Awesome. Well, one more thing, Bo. I mean, as I've been talking with people and, preparing a little bit for this, call and kind of sharing my own testimony and everything. One question that kept coming up that I'd love to hear, you guys talk about was, for people who are new to their faith later in life, they've kind of been taught this one way of thinking through, public education, all this stuff about, evolution and the creation of the world and kind of like historical texts in that sense. And for them, like a big struggle has been like how they can trust the authenticity of the Bible in like its entirety and how they can know that the word is true, like throughout history and throughout everything it says. So, I mean, if you're fishing for topics, I'd love to propose that to you.
Absolutely. I love it. I love it so much. Do you guys like that? I'm sure they do. Let's go. Post in the chat. I want to know about the Bible. I love it, Seth. Let's do this. Hey, our next episode is going to be dropping in November, and I would love to be sharing that. So for all you guys to know, the November episode is going to be how can we know the Bible is true in its entirety?
Yeah, in its entirety, yeah.
I love it. I love it so much. All right. Well, guys, Timothy Journal family, there you have it. We had an amazing episode talking with Seth Weller and what you're doing at Baylor. Don't keep going. You're killing it. And man, to everybody, don't miss out on that merch opportunity. Love of God. I want to be a light. DM'd on Instagram. You can follow Seth. It's in the bio. And then for next November, we're going to be talking. Me and Matt are going to be diving into how can we know the Bible's true? It's in entirety. Amen. Well, we love you guys. Awesome. Be encouraged. Thanks so much.